You know, any single day in the financial markets can tell you a story. But on April 7th, 2026, it wasn't just one story. Nope, it was two completely different tales, playing out at the exact same time. On one side, you had a world teetering on the brink of conflict, and on the other, a world literally reaching for the stars.
And this is right where all the tension starts. This single quote from the White House just perfectly captures the geopolitical cliffhanger that had the entire globe holding its breath. Think about it. One person, one decision, and massive consequences hanging in the balance.
So, let's unpack that first story, the one that had every news channel buzzing. It's a story all about risk, and it centers on this really high-stakes standoff happening in the Middle East.
Okay, so here's the heart of the conflict. The U.S. puts out this ultimatum to Iran about the Strait of Hormuz, which is, a supercritical choke point for global oil. The threat was pretty blunt. Reopen it or we're coming for your infrastructure. The thing is, this wasn't the first deadline. It had already been pushed back before, which just added to this feeling that the crisis was just dragging on and on.
And look, this threat, it wasn't just talk. It had a very real, very concrete impact. Oil prices shot up to their highest point in almost 4 years. When you see a number like this, what you're really seeing is the price of pure uncertainty getting baked into the global economy, right in real time.
And it wasn't just the oil traders getting nervous. This warning from JP Morgan Chase's CEO, Jamie Dimon, basically put the entire financial world on red alert. What he's saying here is, hey, this isn't just an energy problem. It's a potential everything problem. It could trigger higher inflation and send the whole market into a nosedive.
All right, so just to recap, we've got threats of war, oil prices are soaring, and we have these really scary warnings from the titans of Wall Street. So the next logical step would be a stock market in total freefall, right? Well, that's where our story takes this incredibly sharp and kind of puzzling turn. And here you have it. Instead of a sea of red, we're seeing green across the board. The Dow, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, all of them actually ended the day with small gains. I mean, this completely contradicts the fearful headlines, and it's the central mystery we really need to solve here.
Which brings us to the big question, right? With the world on a knife's edge, why on earth were investors so, calm, even a little optimistic? What were they seeing that the rest of us were missing in the headlines?
And the answer, believe it or not, kind of boils down to this weird little piece of market slang, Taco Tuesday. It's this cynical acronym that traders were throwing around. It stands for Trump always chickens out. So they were basically betting that this was all just political theater, not a real prelude to war. They had deadline fatigue, the idea that if you hear the same threat over and over again without anything happening, you just stop believing it.
So, okay, that's one big piece of the puzzle. But it's not the whole story. The market wasn't just calm because it was ignoring the threat of war. It was also tuning into a completely different channel, one where the news was actually really, really good. I mean, at the exact same time all this was going on, there was so much else happening. You had this huge potential merger brewing in the music industry. Over in the world of AI, Broadcom was announcing massive new deals, signaling that that whole boom is far from over. And in healthcare, big insurers were soaring because of some fantastic news about Medicare payments. Each of these is its own powerful forward-looking story of growth.
And that brings us to the most compelling counter-story of the day. A story that literally pulled our attention away from all the conflicts on Earth and pointed it up towards the stars. The whole vibe of the moment was just perfectly captured by this old Latin phrase, ad astra per aspera. It means to the stars through difficulties. And it just nails that fundamental human drive we have to explore and to achieve, even when things are tough back on the ground.
And boy, was that spirit on display. NASA's Artemis 2 mission didn't just go to space, it made history. It sent 4 astronauts farther from Earth than any humans have ever been. This broke a record that had stood for more than 50 years. It was just a pure, incredible moment of human achievement.
And of course, an achievement like that translates directly into market excitement. Commercial space stocks were absolutely surging. Virgin Galactic, for instance, saw its shares leap by almost 25% in a single day. This wasn't just a feel-good story. Investors were seeing dollar signs in the stars.
Honestly, I think this Oscar Wilde quote just says it all. While one part of the market was stuck down in the gutter of geopolitical conflict and oil prices, another part was looking straight up, completely focused on the future, on AI, on innovation, and on humanity's journey into space. So let's bring these two totally different stories back together and figure out what this split really means. It's a tale of two markets living side by side on the very same day. And this slide really lays out the tug-of-war that was happening.
On one side, you have all the immediate, scary headline risks, and on the other hand, you have these powerful, underlying drivers of long-term growth. The market wasn't just ignoring the risks, it was weighing them against all these incredible opportunities.
So what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's that understanding the market on a day like April 7th required this kind of split-screen vision. You had to pay attention to the crisis of the moment, but without losing sight of the innovations that are shaping our tomorrow. It's this constant balancing act between short-term fear and long-term optimism, and it shows the deep difference between trading the headlines and actually investing in the future.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. In a world that is always full of risk, where does the real story actually lie? Is it in the crisis of the day, or is it in the innovations of tomorrow? On this particular day, at least, it seems like investors made their choice.